Hi, Rafe.
Hi, Lucas. How are you doing?
Great. First, I just want to thank you for working on the show. I've been a fan since I picked up the books when I was like 12 years old.
Oh my God,
Um,
me too. So,
oh, that was one of my questions. But how did you thread that needle of like appeasing hardcore fans like us and then bringing in like a larger, more general audience?
I mean, I think that the truth of the books is that so many people have read them and been brought in by them that there are core elements of them that just naturally invite a new audience to it. And so trying to be really true to those, like I think these characters are characters that people inevitably want to spend time with. So more than anything, I just tried to make sure that like the characters on screen felt like the characters in the book. And if we did that, then anyone would be drawn in to follow their stories.
Yeah, I noticed that you put a lot of character development in the beginning of the story, which we normally would get spaced out over the whole series of a book, which I thought was very clever. Um,
Thank you.
I mean, Wheel of Time is dense. It's 14 books, over 1,000 pages long each. Like, how did you approach that daunting challenge?
In kind of the exact same way of there's just so much there. I have to recognize at the very beginning that I will never be able to deliver on all of it. Like there's no way to bring everything that's in the books to life. So what I have to do is focus on these characters and telling every part of the story that I can that brings their emotional journey to life. And so that's really how I tried to focus my choices in. Obviously, there's a lot of production concerns that are involved in the choices that we have to make for what we cut and what we use and how we combine things and all of that. But I always tried to focus it first and foremost around the characters and making sure that you can always track why they're doing the things that they're doing.
Is there a certain character you were just like so excited to write for?
I mean, there. I love Egwene. I know a lot of people are not as in love with
What?
Egwene, but I
She's such a
love
good
that.
character.
I
Yeah.
love that character, and I think she's so much more complicated and interesting than you're used to seeing these, like especially in a lot of modern fantasy stuff that happens, the female character at the center is so faultless, and I don't think Egwene is that at all. I think she has a lot of failings that she recognizes in herself, and that she has this like core underneath it that is so strong and so resilient. I was excited to bring that character to life because I do think that she still feels very fresh today, 30 years
Yeah,
later.
she has to grow into a woman, and that's like typically they reserve those roles for men, where it's like they have
Yeah.
to leave childhood behind. Instead, it's all on her shoulders. It's really cool. So one thing as I love about this series is the setting, a world where magic is only allowed to be wielded by women. I mean, even then it's like feared and just somewhat tolerated, but it raises so many questions about gender roles and biases. I mean, did you try to put some of that stuff into the material, or is it just did it organically come from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's so inherent in a world where women have inherent power, and that like you would naturally encounter a woman and you're not sure if she's more powerful than you physically. Essentially,
Hmm.
it does this very subtle gender flip to the entire world. And I think the cool thing about it is all the different ways that it plays out in the books, like all the different cultures, they each have a different approach to women who can channel and what that means and how they function in society. You even see it in the first episode between how the people of the two rivers think about it and how Moiraine as an Aes Sedai thinks about it. So I think it gives us this just incredibly fertile ground to talk about gender and how people build it and what it really means, as a subtextual piece of the series.
Yeah, this is the reason why I sent these novels to my niece.
Yeah.
Because I do think they're, in an entertaining way, it talks about some really incredible themes. Um, so yeah, the other than Wheel of Time, are there any other like sci-fi and fantasy books that you're a big fan of?
Oh yeah. I mean, I tend towards the ones where women are kind of at the center of them. Like I love the Vorkosigan saga. There's I love this new series, Divine Cities, too, that I've been reading that I'm just obsessed with. So there's like
That's on my
I
list. I haven't gotten to
it's really
it.
good. It's really, really interesting. So I tend towards places where it's not just your down the middle fantasy story. I really like very deep building of politics and culture. And so obviously Wheel of Time is something that appealed to me. I like worlds that feel real, and this world feels so real.
Yeah, I mean, can you actually talk a little bit further about that? Like, what really does separate Wheel of Time from these other fantasy stories that I've read thousands of them?
Yeah, I think that for me, always the biggest things that set it apart in its time, and that I think the show has to deliver on as well, is the incredibly complex world that it built with different political structures, different governments, different. Having the Aes Sedai working as this almost Catholic Church in medieval Europe society, and the different cultures that you go to, it was so broad and so dense at the same time that I think it was really unique in the fantasy world, and we want to deliver on that. And then I think the multiplicity of female characters was incredible in the Wheel of Time books, especially when it came out. And so trying to deliver on that in the show too, of just seeing a bunch of different versions of female power, and how women hold power and how men hold power, is often very different in the books as well. And I love the male characters in Wheel of Time, and think that they never weaken the male characters to strengthen the female characters, which we try to never do in the show either.
Yeah, I definitely get that feeling from watching just a few episodes I saw. You touched on something though that I think for me separates Wheel of Time, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it, is the inherent diversity that's just baked into the show, because it takes place on continents and across nations. Was that like a wellspring to mind when you were like writing and being a part of that?
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things, is that we get to bring this world to life. And we did it right from the very first days. The costume department had a map up on their wall of every different country in the Wheel of Time world, of what their costumes were going to be inspired by, what in the books we could take and use to build them. So even though we might not see them till season 4, if we're lucky enough to get there, we built a world where we have room to go to that place, and for them to feel new when we get there.
Yeah, I'm just so excited for people who haven't even read the books yet, just to experience it through the TV show, and hopefully it'll drive more people to read the novels as well.
I hope so. I hope I hope there's a big uptick in sales of Eye of the World this year.
Well, you have one big fan here who's going to be along for the ride. And I also have on a lot of the communities online for the Wheel of Time, which I've kind of neglected lately until the show's coming up. So I'm very excited.
Good. Hopefully they're happy too. Like that's the largest stress I have, is people who love the books. Hopefully they don't hate the show.